Before we begin, I just wanted to thank our visionary partners for their continued support. I am Claire Pacheco. I'm a senior manager on the product design team here at Clio. And lately, I've been doing a lot of research on how our customers start using Clio and how they get onboarded. And I'm also a manager, which means I've onboarded a lot of Clions myself, and I've observed what it's like to watch people learn and grow at a new company. So first, I just want you to think back to when it was your first day at a new firm. Maybe you're just starting out in the industry, or maybe you're transitioning after years of working at another firm. What was that experience like for you? Did you have a lot of support, a lot of resources? Did you have a mentor maybe? Someone that you could go to ask any kind of question, even if it may have seemed like a silly one? So if you remember your onboarding experience as a challenging one, you're not an outlier. It's a common problem across the board. In fact, 88% of employees say that their organization does not do a great job of onboarding new hires. Training and onboarding can be extremely expensive, and it feels very tough to prioritize when you have so many other things you need to focus on. But it is actually more expensive to worry about the cost of training and constantly hiring new people all the time. But there is good news here. It means that with just a little bit of effort, you can actually have your firm stand out as a great place to work. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what you can do to help fix your new hire onboarding process. And I hope that at the end of this talk, you'll all walk away with some fresh ideas, maybe some tools that you can bring back to your firm. So we'll talk about these three major themes here. We'll talk about efficiency, or how to create a repeatable plan, one that gives your new hires a framework for success so they can get up to speed quickly. We'll also talk about efficacy, or how to help your employees learn new tools like Clio without having to spend a ton of time and money and resources on developing these yourself. We'll also talk about support and how to foster a culture of continuous learning and development so that in a year's time, your new hires actually become the teachers. Okay, so let's start with efficiency and look at how to create a repeatable plan for your new hires. And I'm curious, just by show of hands here, how many people today are giving out some sort of document to your new hires on day one that just outlines what they need to do to get started? Okay, that's great. A few people here. How many people are using some kind of online template to create these documents, something that you can quickly reuse? Okay, great. Now, for those of you who might not be doing anything like that today, that's okay. Even if you're not doing anything, I'm hoping that maybe you'll get some ideas and inspiration so that you have something prepared for your next new hire. So what does a good onboarding plan look like? These are some of the things, some of the essential things you'll want to include: job role and expectations, goals for the first 3 months, and key resources and references. And we'll go into each one in a little bit more detail and talk about where you can personalize it to account for people's individual learning styles, and also where to keep it generic enough so that it can be reused in something like a template. Now, keep in mind that everyone does have different learning styles, so you want to give people options for how they learn their job responsibilities. For example, some people learn best through one-on-one interactions. So you'll want to assign someone at your firm to be an onboarding buddy, someone that could be their go-to person for any kind of question that might come up and that isn't their direct manager. Now, one really important thing to include in anybody's onboarding plan is their job role, their expectations. Basically, why did you hire them? And these should be written as a description of what a successful person might look like and what they might be doing day to day. You don't have to get into specifics about things like, accounts or projects that they might be taking on. This should be generic enough that you can reuse it again and again for someone that you might hire down the road in a similar role. Another thing you'll want to include is learning objectives and key deliverables for the first 3 months. And here's where you can get specific about some of those projects and accounts that they might be taking on. And if you're not exactly sure yet what they might be responsible for, that's okay too. Here's a trick that I like to use. Imagine that your new hire is maybe 6 months or a year into their role, and you're writing them a thank you letter for all the great work that they've done over the past year. What sort of accomplishments are you celebrating for them? That's what success will look like for your new hire. So you just work backwards from that and think about, what do they need to do in the first 3 months to be able to get them to those accomplishments? And I would also recommend trying to get specifics with deliverables and deadlines. So for example, You might want to include a learning goal like reading through the history of matters within the first 2 weeks, the ones that they'll be taking over. Or it can be like a concrete deliverable like preparing a template for a client questionnaire within their first week. And also you'll want to include key resources and references. So there will probably be a lot of historical knowledge floating around your firm, and it will always be an ongoing process to keep documenting everything, things that, maybe the tools that you're using or the processes that you have. But remember that having any sort of documentation is always better than having none at all. And if you don't have anything written down yet, I recommend starting with some of the most widely used tools and processes. And this can be anything like how to book time off at your firm or how to track time in a tool like Clio. And finally, when it comes to your new hires' onboarding objectives, it's important to give them a way to keep track of their goals so that you can check in with them regularly and make sure that they're still on track. And it can also be helpful to include some of those key deadlines and milestones so that you can check in maybe about once a month or so and just make sure that they're not falling behind. Now, tracking progress doesn't have to be overly complicated. It can be as simple as a checklist. Or if your firm uses a tool to help you manage projects and timelines, then you can use something like that to help them track their onboarding goals, because then they start to learn the tool at the same time. And if you're not using anything like that, then I'd actually recommend using Clio's task lists, which can be a great feature to help new hires track their onboarding goals. Okay, so we've talked about creating an onboarding plan to get people up and running. Now I'd like to focus on how you can improve the efficacy of your new hire onboarding through tools and resources. So take a moment to consider all the tools and technology that your firm uses today. Maybe for drafting documents, you're using Microsoft Word or maybe WordPerfect. And what about communications? Do you rely on Outlook or maybe Microsoft Teams? And then there's hardware. Does your firm run on Windows or a Mac? So something to consider when you hire new people is that you'll have to think about which tools will they be using and what do they need to learn? How much will they have to learn? So for tools like Clio, unless you've specifically gone out of your way to hire people with experience using Clio, you can't assume that they'll already know how to use the tool. Thankfully, you don't have to do a lot of heavy lifting here. Aside from the fact that Clio is one of the easier legal tools to learn and use, we also have plenty of educational material to help people get up to speed and get the most with Clio. From our Clio Academy courses, which offer a bunch of self-paced learning modules, to our Clio Quick Start webinars on a variety of topics. And just recently, we've revamped our entire help center with a focus on better step-by-step instructions to help people who may be less familiar with how to use Clio. So even if a new hire has used Clio before, each firm may have it set up a little bit differently, so it's important to teach them the way that your firm uses Clio. Having everyone at your firm use Clio consistently is really essential. If, for example, firm members aren't tracking time in a consistent way, this can actually lead to lost revenue because you won't be able to bill your clients accurately. And how many people here are confident that everyone in their firm is storing and saving documents according to a standard folder structure? Good, excellent, I like to see it. As you grow and take on more clients and matters, finding historical documents can be impossible if everyone isn't using a standard folder structure. So processes like these are important to document and share with your new hires early so that they start forming good habits right from the start. And here's another tip. If your firm uses any kind of video conferencing tool, maybe like Zoom, the next time you host a training session with your team, record that training session, save the video, and make sure it's stored in a place where you can reference later in your onboarding plans. This is also great for people who maybe prefer to learn by watching videos as opposed to reading a long document. And one last note about tools and resources. Before anyone can learn a tool, it is of course important to make sure that everyone has access to that tool. So before they start on day one, make sure that someone's given them access to all the tools they'll be using day to day, and make sure that they get set up with the right level of permissions. This will ensure that they don't get slowed down and they can start learning and working in the tools from day one. Okay, so the third topic I want to talk to you today is about support and how to create a culture of learning and continuous improvement. Now, creating a strong culture, it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of intention. and it doesn't happen with just one person. Culture is one of those things that is made up of all the little things that add up over time. And so some of the things that I might walk you through may seem like they're not really a big deal, or they might seem like they're less important, but they're the things that have a lasting impression on your people. So when you have a strong culture, people will be committed to their own success, they'll be committed to the success of their firm, and they'll be excited to bring something back and help the firm learn and grow and improve. And one of the simplest things that you can do to start building culture at your firm is just to give your new hires some time to connect with the people that they'll be working with. Start on day one. The first day that they join, just host a team lunch and make sure that they get FaceTime with everyone at the team to connect. And of course, the nature of work is changing, so you'll have to consider, what makes sense for the way your firm works. If, for example, your firm is completely remote, maybe you'll want to make sure that everyone at the firm has a chance to schedule a one-on-one with your new hire just in the first week. But if you have an office, then maybe you can give them a tour on day one, introduce them to everybody, tell them what they do, and make it easy for them to reach out and ask for help when they get to that point and they need to ask questions. And once your new hire has settled into their role, it doesn't mean that their learning journey ends. While your new firm members may no longer be officially onboarding, the habits and culture that they learn at the start of your journey with your firm will carry forward with them throughout their career. Now, for someone like an attorney, maybe this might mean enrolling in some continuous education courses, help them fulfill some continuous learning requirements. And for others, it might mean joining some Clio webinars to learn about the latest features, or even attending a conference like ClioCon. Now, what makes this culture even stronger is if people have a chance to share and apply what they've learned. So for some of you in the room here, maybe you'll want to go back to your firm and host a lunch and learn and share all the tidbits that you've been learning this week. Maybe this talk will make the agenda. Okay, so let's apply all the tactics that we've talked about so far and walk through a case study. We'll talk about what a good onboarding plan might look like, how we can get our new hire up and running quickly with tools and resources, and how we can intentionally create a culture of continuous learning. So let's imagine that we are hiring a new office manager for our firm, Sally McDonald, and I'd like to make myself a list of things to do before the new hire starts, just because a good onboarding plan starts early, and the more prepared our firm looks, the better impression we're going to make, and I know this is going to pay off in the long run. So Sally will be in a client-facing role, which means she'll have moments of stress and high emotion. She'll be the face of our firm, and clients will be interacting with her when they're going through some major life changes and upheavals. So it'll be critical to keep her organized and reduce her own stress as much as possible, because she will often be making others around her feel calm and comfortable. She'll likely need a high level of access, so administrator permissions, on a wide range of the firm's technology, so that she can have high visibility and keep everyone else organized as well. She's also someone who prefers to learn by doing. So we can set her up for success by giving her Clio task lists, and that'll help her get familiar with the feature since she'll be using it quite a lot. And one of her goals for the first 3 months will be to automate some of her intake tasks in Clio Grow, just to help her reduce some of her day-to-day work and focus more on the firm's potential clients. So we're going to assign her some Clio Academy modules to help her learn about Clio Scheduler, and then she can immediately apply what she's learned by working in the firm's Clio Grow account. She'll get more comfortable using Grow, and she'll also help reduce some of the work she has to do when booking initial consults with clients. And finally, we're going to establish a continuous learning plan for Sally. So I'm going to set the expectation that she should be regularly attending Clio's Quick Start webinars and then summarize what she learns and share it back to the firm once a month. This way, she develops the habit of teaching and learning from the start. So I'm feeling pretty confident that Sally will be successful here. We've come from a place of empathy, understanding that she will have to have a lot of support to help her manage the high emotional moments of our clients, and given her a plan with that in mind. We've also tasked her with specific goals that she can accomplish within her first 3 months so that she can learn by doing. And we've also leveraged some of Clio's existing resources just to make this easier for us. And it'll also help our firm because she'll be introducing those features to our firm too. And finally, we've helped her establish a regular learning habit so that she keeps the practice even beyond her onboarding period. So we have talked about a lot today, and improving your onboarding process is not something that's going to get better right away. So if you can only do one thing differently, I would just recommend this. Talk to the last person that you hired at your firm and ask them for feedback about their onboarding experience. and then make one small change for the next person that you hire. And no matter how far along in your onboarding process you are, it's important to just continue making small changes and improvements with every new person you bring on board. So thank you so much for listening. If you want to talk more about onboarding, or if you want to share your own experience, what it was like learning Clio, come find me later in the product lab just on the other side of the room.